A ruthless mafia boss finds a single mother hiding a little boy with his eyes, and the second he whispers those words, a red sniper dot hits the glass. He shields the child, drags them into the night, and locks them inside a sky-high fortress where he's lethal to everyone. Except them. A black card arrives with a child-sized vest, a fake charity files for custody, and somewhere close, a smooth lawyer smiles like a friend while selling their secrets. He tries to be a father, tying tiny shoes with blood on his knuckles, while enemies demand a trade, her life for the child. She wants freedom, he wants a family, the city wants a show, and when the trap finally snaps, he goes to war, and then to his knees. If the world makes their child the prize, can a monster learn to protect without caging? And will she trust him before the court or the bullet takes everything? The penthouse elevator glided upward, its polished walls reflecting their unlikely trio. Harper drew Caleb closer, her son's sleepy weight against her hip, both comfort and concern. The boy's dark curls, so like Damien's, brushed against her shoulder as he fought to keep his eyes open. Damien stood with military stillness, his broad shoulders filling the space. The suit he wore probably cost more than her monthly rent, but Harper noticed the nearly invisible bulge of a shoulder holster beneath the tailored jacket. His hands, capable of both violence and that unexpectedly gentle gesture with the toast, remained relaxed at his sides. "Mama, are we having a sleepover?" Caleb's drowsy question pierced the tension. Harper forced a smile. "Something like that, baby." She met Damien's gaze in the elevator's mirrored surface, reading the unspoken claim there. 4 years of carefully constructed safety, dismantled in one night. The elevator opened directly into the penthouse foyer, revealing a space that screamed both luxury and tactical advantage. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of the harbor, but Harper noted the subtle sheen of bulletproof glass. Beautiful art pieces dotted the walls, likely concealing security panels. Jace materialized from a side hallway, tablet in hand. "Perimeter's clear. I've got eyes on all approaches." He nodded to Harper. "The guest wing is ready. East side, best sight lines." "Thank you," Harper said quietly, surprised by his consideration. Damien's hand brushed her lower back, making her jump. "This way." The hallway was wide, lit by soft, recessed lighting that cast no shadows. Their footsteps were muffled by plush carpeting and a deep charcoal. Harper counted doors, mapped turns, old habits from foster care resurfacing. "Dinosaurs!" Caleb suddenly perked up, pointing to a framed fossil print on the wall. Damien paused, his expression softening fractionally. "Velociraptor, there are more in the library." "Can I see?" Caleb wiggled until Harper set him down, then surprised them both by grabbing Damien's hand. Harper watched emotions flicker. Across Damien's face, wonder, pain, fierce protectiveness. His large hand engulfed Caleb's tiny one with exquisite care. "Tomorrow," Damien promised. "It's late now." The guest suite was larger than Harper's entire apartment. 2 bedrooms connected by a sitting area, all in soothing creams and blues. A tablet on the coffee table displayed security feeds. The windows overlooked the city lights, but she noticed the reinforced frames, the hidden panic buttons. "Everything you need should be here," Damien said. "If not, tell Jace." Harper crossed her arms. "And how long are we supposed to stay?" "Until I eliminate the threat." His jaw tightened. "Someone knew about Caleb. Someone sent a sniper. I need time to find out who." "We can't just disappear. I have a business. Caleb has preschool." "All handled," Jace cut in from the doorway. "We're setting up remote security at the bakery. As for school, we can arrange private tutoring here." Caleb tugged on Harper's sleeve. "Mama, I'm hungry again." "Kitchen's stocked," Damien said. "I'll show you." The kitchen was a chef's dream, all gleaming stainless steel and marble. Harper noted the knife block was empty, though she doubted that would stop Damien if he wanted weapons. He moved with casual efficiency, pulling out bread and peanut butter. "I can do that," Harper said. "Let me." His voice was quiet but firm. She watched him carefully spread peanut butter, cut off the crusts without being asked. Caleb climbed onto a bar stool, swinging his legs as he watched Damien with unguarded curiosity. "You have big hands," Caleb observed. A ghost of a smile touched Damien's lips. "The better to make sandwiches with." The domestic moment felt surreal. This man, who she knew had ordered deaths, who controlled a criminal empire, was making her son a midnight snack with the focus he might give to disarming a bomb. Jace's phone buzzed. He checked it, expression tightening. "Boss, we should review the initial sweep data." Damien nodded. "Eat. Get some rest," he told Harper. We'll talk more tomorrow. He hesitated, then added, You're safe here, both of you. After they left, Harper sat beside Caleb, watching him demolish the sandwich. Her mind raced through scenarios, escape routes, contingencies. But she kept coming back to the way Damien had shielded Caleb with his own body when the sniper's laser appeared, the gentle way he'd held their son's hand. Mama? Caleb's voice was thick with exhaustion. I like Mr. Damien. He knows about dinosaurs. Harper's throat tightened. Time for bed, baby. She helped him wash up and change into the new pajamas that had appeared in the dresser. Exactly his size, of course. The bedroom was perfect for a little boy, with star-shaped nightlights and plush blankets. Caleb was asleep almost instantly, clutching his beloved Stegosaurus toy that someone had thoughtfully retrieved from their apartment. Harper stood in the doorway, watching him breathe. The events of the night crashed over her. The terror of the sniper, the shock of Damien's return, the upheaval of everything she'd built. But looking at Caleb's peaceful face, she knew running wasn't an option this time. Not with unknown threats lurking in the shadows. She touched the tablet Jace had left, cycling through security feeds. The harbor glittered beyond the windows, beautiful and deceptive. Somewhere out there, someone was plotting to use her son as a weapon against his father. Her fingers curled into fists. She might not trust Damien Volkov, but right now, his fortress was the safest place for Caleb. That didn't mean she would let down her guard. That didn't mean she would forget who and what Damien was. But for now, she would play along, gather information, and protect her son, their son, by any means necessary. The pre-dawn hours cast long shadows across Damien's penthouse as workers moved with quiet efficiency. The sounds of power tools and hushed voices filled the space, while a petite woman with perfectly manicured nails directed the installation of dinosaur-themed wallpaper with trembling hands. Ms. Laurent, Damien's voice cut through the quiet. The bedroom needs to be finished within the hour. Sylvie Laurent nodded frantically, her designer clipboard clutched to her chest. Yes, Mr. Volkov, the custom bedding just arrived. Good. He turned away, dismissing her. Harper watched from the doorway as the room transformed. Despite her resistance to this gilded cage, she had to admit the space was perfect for Caleb. A hand-carved wooden bed with built-in guardrails anchored the room, while prehistoric creatures marched across the walls in muted blues and greens. The security walkthrough will begin now, Tomasz announced, his accent clipping the words. The tall security chief gestured for Harper to follow him to a wall-mounted screen. This is our command center feed, he explained, tapping through camera views. Every angle is covered, inside and out. The balcony, he pointed to a glass-enclosed space, requires guard escort. No exceptions. Harper crossed her arms. And if there's a fire? Panic shutters deploy in 1.8 seconds. Service elevator is keyed to Mr. Volkov's biometrics only. Emergency stairs are monitored. His expression softened slightly. We keep children safe here, Ms. Quinn. A quiet knock interrupted them. Jace entered, carrying a black envelope. Inside was a playing card, matte black with an ornate silver in etched into the surface. Beneath it lay a child-sized Kevlar vest in midnight blue. Damien's jaw tightened as he examined the card. Emil Navarro, he said, the name like ice. He's making his move. The cartel prince? Harper asked, remembering whispered rumors. He prefers psychological warfare to direct confrontation. This, Damien held up the vest, is his idea of a message. What kind of message involves bulletproof clothing for a 4-year-old? Before Damien could answer, soft footsteps padded across the floor. Caleb appeared in dinosaur pajamas, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Good morning, sir, he said to Damien, perfectly polite. Something flickered in Damien's expression. He lowered himself to one knee, bringing himself to Caleb's height. You can call me Damien, he said softly. Then after a pause, or Dad, if that feels right later. Harper's chest tightened at the gentleness in his voice, so at odds with his reputation. She turned away, blinking hard. We're leaving at first light, she announced, once Caleb had wandered to the kitchen for breakfast. This isn't our world. Damien's expression hardened. It's not safe. Nowhere is safe with you, she shot back. The sun rose over the harbor, painting the sky in watercolor hues. Harper waited until Damien was occupied with a phone call, then made her move. The service elevator stood at the end of a marble hallway, promising escape. She pressed her palm to the scanner. Access denied flashed in red. Her phone buzzed with a message from Jace. Security footage showed 3 men in black tactical gear moving through the shadows behind her bakery. On one jacket sleeve, a silver N gleamed in the darkness. Harper's stomach dropped. She returned to the main room where Caleb sat cross-legged on the floor, stacking wooden blocks at Damien's feet while the man himself reviewed documents on a tablet. "No way out," she whispered, watching her son play without a care in the world. The morning light streamed through bulletproof glass as workers continued transforming the space. Child locks appeared on cabinets while the designer fretted over throw pillow placement. The penthouse was becoming a fortress wrapped in luxury, a gilded cage with steel bones. Tomasz appeared with a tablet displaying more security protocols. "The panic room is through here," he explained, indicating a hidden door. Voice activated for all authorized residents. Young Master Caleb's fingerprints have been added to the system. Harper noticed how he referred to Caleb, not just a child to protect, but the son of his employer, the heir to whatever dark empire Damien had built. The thought made her skin crawl. "The whole building is secure," Tomasz continued. "Triple redundancy on all systems. No one enters without clearance." "Or leaves," Harper added quietly. He met her gaze steadily. "The threats are real, Ms. Quinn. Mr. Navarro is known for elaborate demonstrations of power." More workers arrived with child-sized furniture and educational toys. The designer fluttered around them, checking everything against her list with nervous energy. Harper wondered if the woman had ever worked under such intense pressure before. Damien moved through it all like a shadow, pausing occasionally to watch Caleb play. His expression softened whenever he looked at their son, though it hardened again the moment anyone else demanded his attention. Harper caught him examining the tiny Kevlar vest more than once, his fingers tracing the fabric with barely contained rage. The morning stretched on, filled with the sounds of construction and quiet conversations about security protocols. Harper felt trapped between 2 impossible choices: stay in this golden prison with a dangerous man who showed such tender care for their son, or risk Caleb's safety in a world where people sent bulletproof vests as threats. She watched Caleb stack another block on his tower, completely at ease, despite the strange surroundings. He looked up at Damien and smiled, receiving a small but genuine smile in return. The sight of it twisted something in Harper's chest. Fear and longing tangled together until she couldn't tell them apart. Mid-morning sunlight streamed through the bulletproof windows as Damien paced the penthouse, phone pressed to his ear. His voice shifted seamlessly between Russian and Spanish, discussing shipments and territory lines, while his hands worked to tie tiny dinosaur-printed shoelaces. "Like this," he demonstrated to Caleb, who watched with rapt attention. Over, under, and through. Harper stood in the doorway, arms crossed tight against her chest. The sight of a feared Mafia boss teaching shoelaces shouldn't have affected her, but it did. "Da konechno," Damien continued his call, fingers gentle as he adjusted the laces. "No, that price is non-negotiable." He switched to Spanish, his tone hardening. "Si quieres guerra, la tendrás." Caleb mimicked Damien's movements with the other shoe, his small face scrunched in concentration. When he succeeded, Damien ended his call and offered a slight nod of approval. "Well done." Over lunch of grilled cheese sandwiches, cut into precise triangles, Damien laid out his strategy. "We keep you both here, protected, while I handle this quietly." "Quietly?" Harper's tone dripped skepticism. "First step, trace who sent that tip about Caleb. Second, acquire the lab that ran today's DNA test. Ensure the results stay sealed." His jaw tightened. "Third, apply financial pressure to Navarro's operations. Strategic, controlled, no citywide war. And we're supposed to just wait here?" Harper gestured at the gilded cage around them. "What are your terms?" The question surprised her. "What?" "For staying. Name your conditions." Harper straightened. "I control Caleb's schedule, bedtime, meals, schooling, no arguments." "Agreed. I want my phone back." Damien's expression remained neutral, with location tracking and an approved contact list. "Fine." She hated the concession, but knew it was the best she'd get. Caleb sat between them, happily dipping his sandwich in tomato soup, oblivious to the negotiation determining his future. The afternoon brought a fresh crisis. Tomasz entered with a thick manila envelope, his usual stoic expression troubled. "Legal filings," he reported. "From the Harbor Children's Alliance." Harper snatched the papers, scanning quickly. "They're petitioning for custody evaluation? On what grounds?" "Uncertain paternity and environmental risk factors." Damien read over her shoulder, his voice dangerous and soft. Tomasz cleared his throat. The alliance traces back to shell companies owned by Vincent Chin. Navarro's accountant, Damien supplied. Your world, Harper spat, throwing the papers down. This was inevitable, the moment you walked into our lives. Now they're trying to take him through the courts? I'll handle it legally first. Damien's voice was measured. If that fails, you'll what? Kill them all? If necessary. His calm admission chilled the room, but that's not my first choice. Hours passed in tense silence. Harper helped Caleb with his dinosaur puzzles while Damien made calls to lawyers and judges. The sky darkened to purple before Caleb's bedtime routine began. In the new dinosaur-themed bedroom, Caleb clutched his favorite T-Rex plush. Will you still be here tomorrow? He asked Damien. Something softened in Damien's expression. Yes. Promise? I promise. He picked up a picture book about velociraptors. Would you like me to read? Caleb nodded eagerly, and Damien began to read in a careful, halting voice. Harper watched from the doorway as her son corrected Damien's pronunciation of Parasaurolophus with 4-year-old authority. After Caleb fell asleep, Harper needed air. She found the roof access door unlocked and stepped into a hidden garden. Planter boxes filled with herbs lined one wall, while vegetable beds occupied another. But what caught her attention was the greenhouse tucked into the corner. Inside, rows of white roses bloomed in perfect formation. The air was humid and sweet. These weren't store-bought flowers. The soil under her fingers was fresh, the tools well used. This was someone's personal project, maintained with obvious care. They're his, Tomasz said quietly from the doorway. Mr. Volkov tends them himself. No one else is allowed to touch them. Harper stared at the pristine blooms. The man who ordered killings and controlled territory lines also grew roses with careful hands. The same hands that had tied Caleb's shoelaces with such patience. The revelation settled uncomfortably in her chest. She'd built an image of Damien as a monster, but monsters didn't grow roses or read dinosaur books. They didn't kneel to meet children's eyes or cut sandwiches into perfect triangles. The night air carried the scent of the flowers as Harper studied them. Each bloom was flawless, cultivated with precision and dedication. It was a side of Damien she never expected. This hidden gentleness, this private beauty he maintained alone. She touched one velvet petal, wondering how many other layers existed beneath his carefully controlled surface. The morning light spilled through bulletproof windows as Harper guided Caleb's small hands over an egg. Gentle tap, she instructed, helping him crack it against the bowl's edge. His face lit up when the yolk dropped cleanly. Look, Mama, I did it! Perfect form, Damien commented, from the doorway making them both start. He'd been watching, shoulder pressed against the frame, his usual sharp suit, replaced by a casual black sweater that did nothing to soften his dangerous edges. Tomasz appeared behind him with tablet in hand. Routes mapped for the playground, sir. Triple sweep complete. Cameras confirmed. Weather optimal except light rain. Harper's heart jumped. We're going out? A controlled outing, Damien specified. Private playground owned by an associate. 30 minutes maximum. Caleb bounced on his toes. Previous egg-cracking triumph forgotten. Can I go on the swings? Yes, Malyush. The Russian endearment slipped out naturally, making Harper's chest tighten. The convoy rolled out 20 minutes later, 3 identical black SUVs, positions randomized, with Damien's team running point and sweep. Harper held Caleb's hand in the middle vehicle, while Damien sat opposite, his face impassive, but his eyes constantly scanning. The rain started as they crossed the West Bridge, fat drops streaking the bulletproof glass. Harper saw the trucks too late, 2 massive semis converging from both directions, boxing them in. Down! Damien barked as the first shots cracked against the windows. He moved like liquid violence, shoving Harper and Caleb to the floorboards as he kicked his door open. Harper pressed Caleb's face to her chest, feeling his terrified heartbeat. Through the gap under the seat, she watched Damien's feet plant wide on wet asphalt. He used the reinforced door as cover, returning fire with mechanical precision while speaking rapid commands into his comm. Smoke now! South side first! White smoke billowed across the bridge as more shots peppered the vehicles. A bullet punched through the trunk with a metallic shriek, making Caleb whimper. Damien's head snapped around at the sound, his expression murderous. What happened next burned into Harper's memory. Damien, moving like a myth through gunsmoke, cutting down threats with cold efficiency while his team executed a textbook defensive pattern. He was beautiful and terrifying, a predator in his element. But when the last attacker fell and the smoke cleared, His hands shook as they cradled Caleb's head, checking for injuries. "Are you hurt? Either of you?" "We're okay," Harper whispered, though her voice trembled. Rain soaked through her shirt where she'd pressed against the floor, but she barely noticed. She was too busy reconciling the man who dealt death so easily with the one now running gentle fingers through Caleb's hair, murmuring soft reassurances in multiple languages. The drive back was tense and silent. Caleb fell asleep against Harper's shoulder, exhausted from fear. In the penthouse, Damien disappeared immediately to the roof while his team swept for secondary threats. He returned 20 minutes later with a single white rose, stem carefully stripped of thorns. "Here." Harper accepted it, confused. "Why?" "Because you deserve something beautiful, after ugly things." He paused, jaw working. "I grow them myself. Started years ago when I needed a space that smelled like something other than gun oil and cordite." "The greenhouse," Harper realized. "Your private garden." "Yes." "It doesn't change anything," she said, but her fingers curled around the stem. "What happened today was my fault. I shouldn't have risked. Was proof you'll protect him. Protect us." The admission cost her, but it was true. "Even if your methods terrify me, I can be both," Damien said quietly. "The monster they fear and the man who grows roses. The killer who will paint that bridge red if they touch my son, and the father who reads him dinosaur books." The air between them crackled with unspoken things. Harper found herself studying his mouth, remembering other times, other kisses. He stepped closer, one hand rising to brush her cheek. The elevator chimed. Peter Lang strode in, impeccable in a charcoal suit despite the late hour. Judge Emerson took the case. Damien's hand dropped. "Your assessment? She's clean, genuinely independent, takes her duties seriously." Lang set his briefcase down. "She's ordering a court-supervised DNA test in 3 days. No shortcuts, but also no delays from the other side." "The Harbor Children's Alliance," Harper started. "Will have to play by actual rules," Lang assured her. "Judge Emerson doesn't appreciate backdoor manipulation. She'll want clean evidence, proper procedure." 3 days, Damien repeated. His expression had gone remote again, all traces of their earlier moment hidden behind his usual mask. After Lang left, Harper settled onto the couch outside Caleb's room, unable to sleep in her assigned bedroom down the hall. She needed to be closer, needed to hear his steady breathing through the partially open door. Damien's footsteps passed regularly in the hall, twice, 3 times, 4, guarding them even here in his fortress. The rhythm should have made her nervous, but instead it became oddly soothing. Monster and protector, killer and father, danger and safety, all wrapped in one complicated package. Eventually, Caleb's soft snores and Damien's measured steps lulled her into sleep, the white rose still clasped in her hand, its petals catching moonlight from the windows. Her last conscious thought was that sometimes safety came with thorns, and sometimes the most dangerous things could also be the most beautiful. The morning sun filtered through Judge Emerson's office windows, casting long shadows across her polished desk. Harper sat rigidly in the leather chair, hyper-aware of Damien's controlled stillness beside her. His suit was impeccable, but she noticed the tension in his jaw, the way his fingers pressed against his thigh. Judge Emerson adjusted her reading glasses, scanning the preliminary paperwork. "Let me be clear," she said, her tone brooking no argument. "This case requires absolute discretion and adherence to procedure. Mr. Volkov?" "Your reputation precedes you." Damien's face remained neutral, but Harper felt him stiffen. "Your Honor," Peter Lang interjected smoothly, "my client is fully committed to following proper legal channels." Outside in the waiting area, through the glass partition, Harper could see Caleb sprawled on his stomach, concentrated on his coloring book, while Ruth Halpern sat nearby. The nanny had arrived at dawn, credentials impeccable, after Tomash's thorough background check. She seemed kind but vigilant, exactly what they needed. "I'm ordering a second DNA test," Judge Emerson continued, "to be conducted at Harbor Path Diagnostics. Independent facility, court-supervised process." She fixed them both with a stern look. "And the child is to remain secure and away from public spaces until this matter is resolved. We've all seen the news about the bridge incident." Harper watched Damien's fingers curl into a fist, but his voice remained steady. "Understood, Your Honor." Later that afternoon at Harbor Path, Dr. Harlan Tate walked them through the testing process. The lab was pristine, all gleaming equipment and sterile surfaces. But something felt off. Harper noticed a young technician in the corner, constantly checking his phone with trembling hands. She touched Tomasz's arm and whispered, "The tech by the centrifuge. Something's wrong." Tomasz gave an imperceptible nod and stepped out, presumably to check security logs and badge swipes. Damien, meanwhile, submitted to the swab with military precision, his eyes never leaving Caleb as the boy bravely opened his mouth for his own sample. Back at the penthouse, exhaustion and tension finally cracked the surface. Harper found Damien in the kitchen, sleeve rolled up as he reached for a glass, revealing the jagged scar she'd glimpsed earlier. "Who gave you that?" she asked. He went still, then turned to face her. "Someone I trusted. Someone who sold information that got my brother killed." The raw pain in his voice made her step closer. "I'm sorry." "Is that why Caleb's birth certificate lists Michael Davidson as his father?" "Yes." Harper wrapped her arms around herself. "I needed a name that wouldn't raise flags. Something ordinary enough to hide behind." Damien moved toward her, slow and deliberate. "You were protecting him like I should have protected Nikolai." "I was scared," she admitted, "of your world, of what it would mean for him." "And now I'm scared of different things." He reached for her, one hand cupping her face. The touch was electric, inevitable. When their lips met, it was like a match to gasoline. His kiss was careful at first, testing, but the control in his body told her how much he was holding back. Harper pressed closer, fingers curling into his shirt. Damien made a sound low in his throat, backing her against the counter. His hands were everywhere, reverent and hungry at once. "Tell me to stop," he breathed against her neck. "Don't you dare." They made it to her room somehow, leaving a trail of clothing and inhibitions. Damien worshipped every inch of her, with dangerous focus, his touch alternating between silk and steel. Harper gave as good as she got, marking his shoulders, tasting the salt of his skin. When he finally moved inside her, it was with aching precision. His control was beautiful and maddening. Even lost in passion, he was careful, protective. Harper arched beneath him, nails scoring his back as pleasure built between them. After, tangled in sheets and moonlight, reality crept back in. "What happens when the results come back?" Harper asked. Damien traced patterns on her shoulder. "We face it together, whatever comes." "Even if it means changing everything?" "Everything already changed the moment I saw him in your arms." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "Sleep. We'll handle tomorrow when it comes." But sleep proved elusive for Harper. She padded out to check on Caleb and found Damien already there, stationed mere inches from the boy's door like a sentinel. He dozed off sitting up, gun within easy reach, face softened in rare vulnerability. Harper stood watching him, this dangerous man who killed to protect and grew roses in secret, who read dinosaur books and kissed like salvation. Hope bloomed in her chest, thorny and sweet as Damien's rooftop garden. But wrapped around that hope was the reality of their situation. Enemies waiting in shadows, a court battle ahead, and the constant knowledge that loving him meant accepting all of him, darkness included. The city lights twinkled beyond the windows, and somewhere in those streets threats lurked. But here in this moment, watching Damien guard their son's sleep, Harper felt something shift inside her. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Just before dawn, when the sky began to lighten, Damien stirred. His eyes met hers, alert despite his awkward sleeping position. Without a word, he held out his hand. Harper took it, letting him pull her down beside him outside Caleb's door. They sat in comfortable silence, shoulders touching, listening to their son's soft breathing through the gap. A new day was coming, bringing with it tests and trials and the weight of decisions made. But for now, in this quiet moment between night and morning, they had found their own kind of peace. Morning light had barely touched the penthouse windows when Peter Lang's call shattered the fragile peace. Harper watched Damien's face transform as he listened, his knuckles white around the phone. "What do you mean, inconclusive?" His voice was deadly quiet. Harper's stomach dropped. She moved closer, close enough to hear Peter's crisp tone through the speaker. "Harbor Path's preliminary results are showing contamination issues. The court can grant temporary custody to the Harbor Children's Alliance while we arrange a third test. Judge Emerson is reviewing the petition now." The phone cracked in Damien's grip. He set it down with precise control that spoke of barely contained violence. "Jace!" he barked into his earpiece. "I want every payment to Harbor Path staff traced, 6 months back, now!" Tomasz appeared in the doorway, reading the tension. Damien's eyes met his. "Double the perimeter. No one in or out without direct authorization." Harper's hands started shaking. "This is exactly what I was afraid of." Your world, this life, it's going to get my son locked away in some institution while lawyers argue about DNA. That won't happen, Damien's voice was steel. It's already happening, her voice rose. They're trying to take him, and it's because of who you are, what you do. I will shut this down, Damien cut in, without exposing Caleb to more danger. Trust me. From the kitchen, Ruth's gentle voice carried as she helped Caleb measure flour for muffins. The domestic sound felt surreal against their whispered argument. But what if... Harper stopped as tiny footsteps padded away from the kitchen. Caleb had heard enough to understand something was wrong. They found him under the dining table, knees pulled to his chest. Harper dropped to her hands and knees, crawling under to join him. Hey, baby. Are they going to take me away? His lower lip trembled. No. Harper gathered him close. I promise you, we will not be separated. Not ever. Damien knelt beside the table, his presence solid and reassuring. No one is taking you anywhere, Malish. You're safe here with us. Jace's voice crackled through Damien's earpiece. Boss, we found something. That tech Harper noticed received 4 payments from shell companies tied to Marcus Chen, Navarro's money man. Damien's jaw clenched. He touched Caleb's shoulder gently before standing. Get me proof, and find out who else at that lab is compromised. Harper coaxed Caleb back to Ruth and his baking, though her own hands wouldn't stop trembling. When she returned, Damien was studying security feeds on multiple screens. Tomorrow, he said without looking up, we do this legitimately, full court supervision, chain of custody on the samples. If that fails, his voice dropped to a growl, I will systematically dismantle everything Navarro has built. And if that puts Caleb in more danger, it won't. I'm done playing by their rules. He turned to her then, eyes intense. I protect what's mine. The day crawled by in a haze of tension. Harper helped Caleb frost his muffins, read him stories, tried to maintain normalcy while her mind raced. After he fell asleep, she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, one hand pressed against the passport photos hidden under her mattress. She'd gotten them months ago, part of her endless contingency planning. 3 perfect shots of Caleb's face, ready for whatever documents she might need. She wasn't ready to use them, not yet, but she couldn't stop her mind from mapping escape routes, calculating risks. Damien appeared in her doorway like a shadow. You should sleep. Tomorrow will be long. How can I sleep when... She stopped, unwilling to voice her fears. He crossed to her bed, sitting on the edge. His hand found hers in the darkness. I meant what I said. No one takes him from us. Us. The word hung between them, heavy with meaning. Harper squeezed his hand, anchoring herself to his certainty, even as doubt gnawed at her edges. From down the hall came the soft sound of Caleb talking in his sleep, a habit that always emerged when he was stressed. Damien's thumb traced circles on her palm, a gesture so gentle it made her throat tight. I'll take first watch, he said quietly. Sleep if you can. But sleep remained elusive. Harper lay awake, listening to Damien's measured footsteps as he patrolled the penthouse. The passport photos burned in her mind, an escape route she prayed she wouldn't need, but couldn't quite let go of. Outside, the city hummed with late-night energy. Somewhere in those streets, Navarro was moving pieces on a board, trying to tear apart what was only beginning to feel like family. Tomorrow would bring another test, another chance for things to go wrong. Damien's steps paused outside her door. She could feel his presence, solid and watchful, before he moved on. Guard dog, protector, dangerous man who'd killed to keep his people safe. The father of her child, the complication she hadn't planned for. Harper pressed her hand against the mattress, feeling the slight crinkle of hidden photos. A reminder that she had options, that she could run if she had to. But for now, she would wait and watch, caught between trust and terror, hope and history. The night stretched on, marked by Damien's footsteps and Caleb's occasional murmurs. Tomorrow would decide so much. Their family, their future, the difference between staying and running. Harper lay in the darkness, planning for both possibilities, unable to fully commit to either path. The morning sun painted golden streaks across the penthouse kitchen as Harper stirred her coffee, watching Damien brief his security team. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Full coverage today, Damien ordered. I want eyes on every corner, every entrance. His fingers drummed against the marble counter. I'll be with them personally. Harper set down her mug. Actually, I'd like an hour at the pool with Caleb before we go. Just us. Damien's jaw tightened. Harper! He needs to burn off energy before sitting still in court. The pool is inside the building, behind 3 security checkpoints. She met his gaze steadily. 1 hour. After a long moment, he nodded. Tomasz keeps the cameras on. Ruth stays within reach. The pool area was a gleaming oasis, 16 floors up, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Caleb splashed happily in the shallow end while Harper kept one eye on him and one on the clock. "Mama, watch!" He dog-paddled in circles, proud of his new skills. "That's amazing, baby!" She forced brightness into her voice, trying to mask her anxiety. When their hour was up, Ruth whisked Caleb away to get dressed. Harper slipped into the guest room where she'd been sleeping, retrieving a manila envelope from behind the dresser's false back, a hiding spot she'd discovered day one. Inside, 2 sets of forged papers under her maiden name Quinn, and enough cash to disappear. She'd prepared it years ago, praying she'd never need it. The Southbridge safe house was ready, a small apartment rented through layers of shell companies, stocked with basics. If today went sideways, they could vanish there until the heat died down. She tucked the envelope into her coat's inner pocket, heart heavy with the weight of secrets. In the SUV, Damien sat beside her, his presence both comforting and suffocating. Caleb dozed against her other side, worn out from swimming. A motorcycle appeared in their rear view, keeping pace. "Contact, 6 o'clock, Tomasz reported from the driver's seat. Damien's hand moved to his waist. "Shake it!" Tomasz executed a series of precise turns, losing the tail in downtown traffic. Harper held Caleb closer, grateful he was sleeping through the tension. The courthouse loomed ahead, all glass and steel. Inside Judge Emerson's chambers, the air felt heavy with consequence. Given the irregularities in the second test, the judge began, "I'm ordering a 3rd DNA analysis tomorrow morning. Federal oversight will maintain chain of custody throughout the process." Harper watched Damien's knuckles whiten on his chair arms. The wood creaked under his grip. She leaned close, whispering, "If this doesn't work, I have a plan." His shoulders stiffened. "We handle this my way. Your way could start a war. Better than losing him." They didn't speak again until that evening, putting Caleb to bed together. He insisted on 3 stories and 2 glasses of water, clearly sensing the adult's anxiety. "Will you be here when I wake up?" he asked Damien. "Yes." Damien's voice was firm. "Always." After Caleb drifted off, they stood in the doorway watching him sleep. Damien's hand hovered near Harper's hip, an unspoken question in the touch he wouldn't take without permission. The space between them crackled with possibility and restraint. Harper stepped back first. "I need some air." Hours later, well past midnight, she found Ruth reading in the living room. "I'm going for a walk," Harper said quietly. "Just need to clear my head." Ruth nodded sympathetically. "Take care, dear." The envelope pressed against Harper's ribs as she rode the elevator down, each floor bringing her closer to a decision she'd hoped to avoid. The night air hit her face like a wake-up call as she stepped onto the street. She thought of Damien's promise to Caleb, of his gentle hands and violent capabilities, of the way he'd moved through gunfire to keep them safe, and how he buttered toast with the same attention he gave to battle plans. But she also thought of corrupted labs and court petitions, of her son caught in crosshairs because of blood, ties he never asked for. The weight of the envelope reminded her that she had options, hard ones, but options nonetheless. A taxi appeared at her signal. "Southbridge," she said, settling into the back seat. The driver nodded, pulling away from the curb. Harper watched the penthouse disappear in the rear window, its lights growing smaller until they vanished among the city's constellation of windows. She touched the envelope through her coat, feeling the sharp edges of their escape route. The taxi wound through emptying streets. Every traffic light seemed to ask if she was sure, if this was the right choice, if running was better than staying to fight. She had no answers, only the fierce determination to keep Caleb safe by any means necessary. Southbridge's narrow streets appeared ahead, a maze of older buildings where it would be easy to disappear, where she could hide until the dust settled, until she knew whether fighting through courts would protect Caleb or expose him to worse danger. The envelope held their ghost identities, their emergency funds, their backup plan. But it also held the weight of trust about to be broken, of a family barely formed already facing fracture. The taxi turned onto her target street, where the safe house waited. Harper clutched her coat closer, the envelope a constant reminder of choices made long ago, when Caleb was her only consideration. Now there was Damien to factor in, his protection, his power, his surprising gentleness with their son. Harper's knuckles whitened on the taxi's door handle as headlights flooded the interior. A black van swerved across their path, tires screaming on wet asphalt. The taxi driver slammed the brakes. "What the?" The driver's words cut off as masked figures emerged from the van. Harper's hand flew to her phone, fingers trembling as she tried to dial. The door yanked open. Rough hands grabbed her arms, dragging her into the rain. Her phone slipped, clattering beneath the taxi's seat as she fought. "Let go!" She kicked out, connecting with someone's knee. A grunt of pain, then a sweet-smelling cloth pressed over her mouth. The world tilted sideways. Back in the penthouse, Ruth paced the living room, checking her watch again. An hour had passed. The night beyond the windows was still and dark. "Mr. Volkov," she knocked on his study door. "Harper hasn't returned from her walk." Damien burst from the room, striding to Harper's closet. His methodical search revealed the hidden envelope, travel documents spilling across the floor. His jaw clenched as he examined the forged passports. "She planned to take him." His voice was ice. "She planned to." A ping from his laptop cut through the rage. An encrypted link pulsed on his private server. When he clicked, the screen filled with warehouse footage. Harper sat zip-tied to a metal chair, rain dripping through holes in the ceiling. A digital countdown in red paint dominated the wall behind her. 6. "Beautiful family you're building, Volkov." Emil Navarro's voice oozed through the speakers. "Shame if something happened to it. Bring the boy to the address I'll send, by sunrise, or she dies screaming." Damien's hands curled into fists, then relaxed with dangerous control. He moved to Caleb's room, where the boy slept surrounded by dinosaur drawings. Kneeling beside the bed, Damien touched Caleb's hair. "I will bring your mother home." The promise was a whisper, but it carried the weight of an oath. He turned to Ruth, extending a burner phone. "One contact. Jace. Don't open the door unless you hear white roses bloom in winter. Understand?" Ruth nodded, clutching the phone. "What about the DNA test tomorrow?" Damien was already dialing Judge Emerson's clerk. "Marcus, security emergency. Keep the chain of custody officer on standby. This ends clean." He paused. "One way or another." In his weapons room, Damien moved with precision. Shoulder holster, backup piece at his ankle, ceramic knife against his spine. Each weapon a tool, each tool a promise of Harper's return. His fingers brushed paper in his vest, Caleb's drawing of 3 stick figures holding hands. He tucked it carefully next to his heart beneath the bulletproof material. Thunder growled as he descended to the garage. A bulletproof sedan idled, dark paint reflecting security lights. Rain began to fall as he slid behind the wheel. Jace's voice crackled through the comm. "Grid's up. We've got thermal imaging on 3 warehouses in the target zone." Status on Harper's phone. "Dead zone. Last ping was Southbridge 40 minutes ago." Damien's hands flexed on the steering wheel. He'd assumed the worst when he found the envelope, that she'd planned to vanish with Caleb. Now guilt mixed with fury. She'd run alone, perhaps to scout an escape route, and his enemies had been watching. "Sir?" Tomash's voice joined the comm. "Perimeter team reports movement at Warehouse 2, multiple heat signatures." "Lock it down. No one approaches without my order." Damien pulled onto the street, wipers beating against increasing rain. "And find that taxi driver. I want to know exactly what he saw." The sedan's engine hummed as he accelerated. City lights blurred in the rain, each moment ticking away on that countdown. He'd built his empire on control, on anticipating threats and eliminating them. But this was different. This was Harper. He remembered her in the kitchen that morning, teaching Caleb to crack eggs. The way she'd tensed when he entered, then softened, watching him help clean up the mess. Always evaluating, always weighing the danger he represented against the protection he offered. "Team 2 reporting," Jace cut in. "We've got eyes on Navarro's lieutenant entering Warehouse 2. Armed escort." "Maintain distance. Photo confirmation." "Sending now." The image appeared on Damien's dash screen. A lean man in an expensive coat, silver N pinned to his lapel, one of Emil's inner circle. "Sir?" Tomash again. "About the DNA test tomorrow." "It proceeds exactly as planned." Damien's voice was steel. "I'm not giving that bastard a legal victory while he plays his games." Rain hammered the roof as Damien navigated darker streets. The warehouse district loomed ahead, a maze of abandoned buildings and broken dreams. Somewhere in this labyrinth, Harper waited. Perhaps believing he wouldn't come, that he'd choose Caleb's safety over her life. She didn't understand yet, didn't know that protecting them both wasn't a choice. It was the only option he would accept. "Grid's updating," Jace reported. 3 more vehicles approaching from the east, armed." "Let them come." Damien checked his weapons one last time. They're about to learn why no one touches what's mine. The sedan glided to a stop in shadows, 2 blocks from Warehouse 2. Through the rain-streaked windshield, Damien watched armed figures patrol the perimeter. Inside that building, Harper waited. Inside that building, Emil's game would end. He touched Caleb's drawing through his vest. A child's view of family. 3 figures, holding hands. So simple, so worth protecting. Thunder cracked overhead as Damien stepped into the rain. Harper's wrists burned as she worked the rope against a rusty nail protruding from the chair. The warehouse air hung thick with chemical preservatives and salt, a dockside cocktail she'd know anywhere. Through broken windows, a deep ship horn echoed across the water. Flaking blue paint dotted the concrete floor, the shade used on all the harbor buildings 20 years ago. Her captors had been sloppy, failing to check the chair for loose metal. Amateur work. But Navarro himself was anything but amateur, pacing before her in an immaculate suit with that silver end pin catching dim light. "Time for your close-up, sweetheart." Navarro held up a phone, FaceTime connecting. "Say hello to your guard dog." Damien's face filled the screen, controlled rage in every line. Harper kept sawing, letting her free hand drift into view. "The deal is simple," Navarro said. "Bring the boy to Pier 17. Clean exchange, no tricks, or—" He grabbed Harper's hair, yanking her head back. Harper's fingers flashed 3 letters while Navarro postured. An old code from lighter days, when Damien taught her smugglers' routes on the rooftop garden. Water tunnels, the forgotten veins beneath the docks. "You have 1 hour," Navarro finished. Something shifted in Damien's expression. Recognition, then carefully crafted nothing. "Proof of life every 15 minutes. I'll bring him myself." The call ended. Harper kept working the rope, memorizing guard positions. 4 men, automatics, moving in lazy patterns. They expected Damien to come in hot through the front, all fury and firepower. They didn't know about the tunnels. Somewhere in the dark, engines roared. Damien's decoy convoy heading for Pier 17, drawing eyes and firepower away. Harper counted breaths, feeling threads snap one by one. The storm drain. Access point was 3 sections over, a maze of century-old tunnels that connected the warehouses to the sea. In summer, they'd played a game up there between the roses. He'd describe escape routes. She'd solve them like puzzles, neither imagining they'd need them. "Movement at Pier 17, one guard reported. "Multiple vehicles." Navarro checked his watch. "Right on schedule. Teams 2 and 3 move to intercept. Let's see if Daddy brings the prize." The last rope strand frayed. Harper flexed her fingers, ready. Above, rain drummed the metal roof like ammunition. In her earpiece, Jace's voice crackled. "Grid's clear, moving through Section 4 now." The lights died. Smoke grenades hissed across the floor, gray tendrils climbing like ghostly fingers. Guards shouted, weapons raised at shadows. Harper kicked back hard, sending her chair into Navarro's knees. He stumbled, cursing. A whisper behind him. "You should have stayed in your lane." Damien materialized from the smoke, deadly grace in motion, his hand locked around Navarro's throat. Gunfire erupted, muzzle flashes strobing through chemical fog. Harper rolled behind a crate as Damien dealt with Navarro. A guard's outline appeared. She swept his legs, years of self-defense classes taking over. Then Damien was there, moving with her like they'd rehearsed it. She ducked, he fired, she pointed, he turned. Perfect, deadly synchronization. They hit the side door together, rain shocking cold after the warehouse heat. Harper led them 3 buildings over to a rusted grate. The tunnel gaped below, black water rushing with storm runoff. Boots pounded past overhead as they splashed through the underground channel. Harper's shoulders ached, bruises blooming, but adrenaline carried her forward. Damien stayed close, one hand steady on her back. They emerged behind the old cannery, climbing a maintenance ladder to street level. Damien pulled her up the last few rungs, then pressed his forehead to hers. "I'm sorry," he breathed. "I thought, when I found the envelope—" "I know." Harper gripped his vest. "I was scouting an exit route, just in case the DNA test." She swallowed. "Old habits." His hands framed her face, checking for injuries. "You remembered the tunnel code." "You were a good teacher," she managed a weak smile. "Between the roses!" Sirens wailed closer. Damien's team would be handling cleanup, making sure Navarro's operation crumbled while maintaining deniable distance. The legal battle still loomed, but this threat, at least, was neutralized. "Caleb?" she asked. "Safe, with Ruth. I promised him I'd bring you home." Home. The word settled between them, heavy with meaning. Not just the penthouse with its security and luxury, but the space they were building. The family taking shape in stolen moments and careful choices. "Sir," Tomash's voice came through the comm. "Area secure. Medical team standing by at the rendezvous point." Damien's thumb brushed a scrape on Harper's cheek. "Let's get you checked out. Then we deal with tomorrow's DNA test. Together." Harper nodded, letting him support her weight as they moved through shadow toward the waiting car. Every step was a decision. To trust, to stay, to face whatever came next with united strength. Rain washed the city clean, carrying away gunsmoke and fear. Above them, storm clouds parted, revealing stars like scattered diamonds. Nature's reminder that even the darkest nights eventually break. Dawn painted the penthouse windows in watercolor pinks and golds as the elevator doors slid open. Ruth stood in the foyer, hands clasped tight, tears already falling. Behind her, Caleb's dinosaur blocks lay scattered across the floor, evidence of a sleepless night. "Mama!" Caleb bolted from Ruth's side, little feet thundering across marble. Harper dropped to her knees, catching him in a fierce embrace. Her bruises protested, but she didn't care. She buried her face in his sleep-warm hair, breathing in the baby shampoo smell that meant home and safety. "I knew Damien would find you," Caleb whispered, arms locked around her neck. "He promised." Damien moved quietly behind them, methodically removing his tactical gear. The holster came off first, then the vest. Each piece was set deliberately on a high shelf, well beyond curious fingers. His movements were precise, almost ritual, like a man shedding more than just equipment. When he finished, he turned and slowly sank to one knee beside them. The gesture struck Harper deeply, this dangerous man willingly making himself smaller, less imposing. His clothes were still damp from the tunnels, and exhaustion lined his face, but his eyes held steady on hers. "I'm done," he said, voice rough with emotion. "Done caging you. Done letting fear drive every decision." He glanced at Caleb, then back to Harper. "I want to be a man our son can look up to. Someone worthy of the family I found." Ruth dabbed her eyes with her sleeve, trying to quiet her relieved sobs. "If you want the door open," Damien continued, "it stays open. No tracking, no restrictions, just trust. Trust that I'll protect you both without suffocating you." Harper shifted Caleb in her lap, considering. "I'll stay," she said finally, "but I need something from you first." Damien nodded, waiting. "Change the rules of your world. Make it known, through whatever channels you use, that children are never leverage. Not mine, not anyone's. Break that rule, and you break them all." Something fierce and proud flickered in Damien's expression. He gave a single, sharp nod, the kind that carried the weight of blood oath. Tomash appeared from the security room, tablet in hand. "Navarro's crew is splintering," he reported. "The failed trade destroyed his credibility. His lieutenants are already reaching out to realign." "Send them to ground," Damien ordered. "No reprisals for now. Let them stew." Jace emerged from his makeshift command center, looking like he'd mainlined coffee all night. "Got the leak list compiled. It's interesting." He handed over a folder. "None of the street crews show up. It's all white-collar, accounts, shipping manifests, shell company trails." Peter Lang swept in, immaculate despite the early hour. "We need to focus on the DNA test," he insisted. "The judge won't look kindly on any hint of violence. I suggest we craft a statement emphasizing domestic stability and proper channels." "You seem very concerned with controlling the story," Harper interrupted, watching Lang's face carefully. His jaw tightened for just a fraction of a second. "My job is managing perceptions," he said smoothly, "especially with custody at stake." Caleb squirmed out of Harper's lap, heading for his blocks. Damien rose and offered Harper his hand. She took it, letting him pull her gently to her feet. "The federal chain of custody officer will meet us at 9, Lang continued. "Full documentation, sealed samples, ironclad process. No room for interference this time." Harper caught the slight emphasis on the last words. She filed it away with other small details that didn't quite fit. They spent the next hour preparing. Ruth helped Caleb into clean clothes while Harper showered away the warehouse grime. Damien changed into an impeccable suit that couldn't quite hide the warrior beneath. They ate breakfast together, Caleb insisting on dinosaur eggs, sunny side up, while Harper and Damien shared quiet glances over coffee. Jace coordinated their security detail and Tomas triple-checked the route. This time, they would take no chances with ambush or sabotage. At 8:45, they gathered by the elevator. Caleb stood between them, small hand in each of theirs like a bridge between worlds. Harper felt the weight of the moment, not just the impending test, but this new balance they were trying to strike. Protection without possession, strength without subjugation. The elevator descended, smooth and silent. Caleb swung their joined hands, humming a dinosaur song he'd learned from Ruth. Harper watched their reflection in the polished doors, the three of them together. Not perfect, not simple, but real. Damien's thumb brushed her knuckles where their hands met behind Caleb's back. A small gesture, but it carried volumes. Trust, promise, partnership. The doors opened to the lobby, where their security team waited. Beyond the tinted windows, media crews already gathered, hungry for the story of the Mafia boss, the baker, and the child between them. But they would face it together. No more running, no more cages, just the hard, worthy work of building something new from the ashes of old rules and old fears. Caleb squeezed both their hands as they stepped forward. "Ready?" he asked, with a child's simple faith that his parents could handle anything. Harper met Damien's gaze over their son's head. Whatever came next, custody hearings, rival threats, the endless dance of power and protection, they would weather it as a family. They moved through the lobby as one, Caleb's presence between them like a compass pointing true north. The courthouse waited across the rain-washed street, its stone facade stark against the morning sky. Time to face the next challenge, together. The federal lab's sterile white walls matched Agent Lila Monroe's crisp demeanor as she snapped on latex gloves. Her badge gleamed under fluorescent lights, credentials prominently displayed for transparency. "I'll walk you through each step," Monroe explained, laying out sealed swab kits. "Everything gets documented, photographed, and sealed with tamper-evident tape. No shortcuts." Harper stood close enough to see every detail while maintaining professional distance. Her arms crossed tight against her chest, watching Monroe prep the first swab for Caleb. "Open wide, buddy," Harper encouraged softly, "just like when we check for dinosaur teeth." Caleb, perched on the exam chair, giggled and opened his mouth. Monroe worked efficiently but gently, careful not to startle him. "Good job, little man," Damien said from his position by the door. His voice was warm, but his posture remained sentinel straight. Monroe sealed Caleb's sample in an evidence bag, documenting the time and applying the first tamper evidence strip. She repeated the process with Damien, whose jaw muscles worked beneath his skin, but who submitted to the procedure without comment. "Both samples are sealed and logged," Monroe confirmed, initialing the chain of custody forms. "I'll personally oversee the testing, preliminary results in about 2 hours." Harper's phone buzzed. Ruth sending a photo of dinosaur drawings Caleb had made earlier. She showed it to him, grateful for the distraction during the wait. Damien's phone lit up next. His expression didn't change as he read Jace's message, but Harper caught the slight tightening around his eyes. Something in the investigation had shifted. They waited in the sterile consultation room, Caleb amusing himself with a tablet game Ruth had loaded. Harper watched Damien from the corner of her eye. His stillness felt different now. Not the calm before violence, but something more controlled, more calculated. At exactly 2 hours and 7 minutes, Monroe returned with a folder. "The preliminary results are consistent with paternity," she stated. "The full report will be filed with Judge Emerson, but this should be sufficient to address immediate custody concerns." Harper's knees went weak with relief. Damien's hand found her lower back, steadying her. They drove straight to the courthouse where Judge Emerson reviewed Monroe's preliminary findings. The judge's chambers felt crowded with their legal team, but Peter Lang commanded attention as he presented the results. "Given the federal oversight and clear chain of custody," Lang argued smoothly, "we move to suspend the petition immediately." Judge Emerson studied the documents. "The evidence appears conclusive this time. Petition suspended, and any pending guardianship transfer is hereby blocked." She fixed them with a stern look. "I trust we won't see further complications." "No, Your Honor," Lang assured, with practiced charm. "Everything is quite settled now." Outside the chambers, Lang moved to discuss next steps, but Damien cut him off. "A word, privately." They stepped into an empty conference room. Harper caught the shift in Damien's stance, predator still. "Interesting development about Harbor Path," Damien said quietly. "The bribe trail." "I assume you'll handle that unfortunate business appropriately," Lang replied, straightening his tie. The offshore trust was clever, almost invisible. Lang's smile flickered. "I'm not sure what you're implying." "The same trust that manages your personal accounts," A beat of silence. Lang's face hardened. Careful, Damien. Accusations need proof. Like the proof you gave Navarro about the water tunnel rescue? Damien's voice dropped lower. Strange that you'd know that detail. You weren't there. Lang's mask slipped. Fear leaked through for just a moment before he recovered. I heard it from... No one knew that route except those in the tunnel. And now you. Harper watched the exchange from the doorway, pieces clicking into place, the controlled narrative, the convenient timing of the petition, the compromise test. Damien pulled out his phone, sent a quick text. Tomasz will take Ruth and Caleb to the rooftop greenhouse. A picnic, he'll say. His eyes never left Lang. The last loose end needs handling. Lang's hand twitched toward his pocket. Don't be dramatic. We can discuss this reasonably. Harper, Damien's voice gentled as he turned to her. Take Caleb upstairs, trust me one more time. She studied his face, the control, the promise, the protection without cage. This was the man who'd knelt before their son, who grew roses in secret, who'd remade rules for love. 1 hour, she said quietly. Damien nodded once. In his eyes, she saw not the monster of myth, but a father defending his family, legally, finally, completely. The elevator ride up felt endless. Caleb chatted about his promised greenhouse picnic while Harper held him close. Through the glass walls, she watched the city spread below, like a glittering chessboard where the last moves were being played. The penthouse doors opened to Ruth's warm smile and packed picnic basket. Who's ready for dinosaur sandwiches? She asked brightly. Caleb cheered, running ahead to the greenhouse. Harper followed more slowly, trusting Damien to dismantle the final threat to their family, not with violence, but with the same precise control that had won them the legal victory. Above the city, surrounded by Damien's hidden roses, Harper watched Caleb arrange plastic dinosaurs around his sandwich. The greenhouse air was warm and sweet, nothing like the sterile lab or formal chambers below. Here, in this secret garden, she could believe in new rules and better ways. Ruth spread out a blanket, carefully avoiding the flower beds. Shall we name the roses while we eat? She suggested. Your father grows so many varieties. The white ones are my favorite, Caleb declared, reaching for a juice box. Harper smiled, settling onto the blanket. 1 hour. Time enough for Damien to ensure their safety through proper channels, to prove that love could change not just a man but an empire. The city hummed below, but up here, surrounded by flowers and family, Harper finally felt the last of her fear dissolve. They had won, not through force or flight, but through truth and trust, and the strength to change. Afternoon sunlight filtered through the greenhouse glass, casting warm shadows among Damien's white roses. Harper spread the checkered blanket while Ruth unpacked sandwiches, shaped like dinosaurs. The peaceful scene felt surreal after the morning's tension in the courthouse. Look what I found! Caleb waved a sheet of cartoon dinosaur stickers, his eyes bright with excitement. He toddled over to Damien, who had shed his suit jacket in the warmth of the greenhouse. Can I put them on you? Damien's expression softened. Of course. With careful concentration, Caleb pressed a purple stegosaurus onto Damien's wrist. 1, he counted solemnly. A green T-Rex followed. 2. His small fingers smoothed each sticker with deliberate care. Harper watched them, her heart catching at the tenderness in Damien's eyes. He held perfectly still, allowing their son to decorate his arm with prehistoric creatures. How many white roses are there? Caleb asked suddenly, looking up at the blooms surrounding them. Should we count them? Damien suggested. Caleb nodded eagerly, abandoning his sticker project to point at each flower. 1, 2, 3. A sharp ring cut through the peaceful moment. Ruth pulled out her phone, frowning at the screen. It's the hospital, she said, standing quickly. They're saying there's an emergency with my mother. Harper's instincts flared. Wait. She caught Ruth's arm, remembering Lang's slip about the water tunnel. Something felt wrong. Let me check the security feed first. She pulled up the door camera on her phone. There, half hidden in the shadows by the service entrance, stood a familiar face. One of Navarro's men who'd driven during previous encounters. Ice slid down Harper's spine. She slammed her hand on the panic button, and metal shutters crashed down throughout the penthouse. The man by the door found himself trapped in the vestibule. With trembling fingers, Harper typed one word to Damien. Now. Minutes stretched like hours until the elevator hummed. Damien emerged with Tomasz, their faces grim. They found Lang in the security office, surrounded by screens and files. detailed surveillance of Harper and Caleb's movements over the past week. It was never about the DNA, Lang said, his polished veneer cracking. Navarro's buyers wanted proof you could be controlled through legal channels. A father bound by custody agreements is easier to manipulate than a free agent. You mapped my family's routines. Damien's voice was deadly quiet. Sold their safety. Business is changing, Lang argued. The old ways are still effective when necessary. What happened next stayed in that room. Harper didn't ask about the blood on Damien's cuff when he returned upstairs, and he offered no explanation where Caleb might hear. He simply gathered them close and said, "No one will threaten you again." The greenhouse felt different now. Not just a sanctuary, but a fortress of glass and steel, protecting the fragile peace they'd built. Caleb had dozed off in Ruth's lap, his face peaceful among scattered dinosaur stickers. Harper leaned into Damien's shoulder, breathing in the scent of roses and gunpowder that clung to his shirt. His arm came around her, solid and sure. "Did you get it all?" she whispered. "The surveillance files?" "Every copy." His thumb traced circles on her shoulder. "The threat is contained." Through the glass walls, the city sprawled beneath them, unaware of the power shift that had just occurred. Up here, surrounded by white roses and family, they had carved out their own world with new rules. Ruth hummed softly to Caleb, a lullaby that drifted through the warm air. The remaining dinosaur stickers glinted on Damien's wrist, a badge of fatherhood, more meaningful than any legal document. "We should wake him soon," Harper murmured. "Or he won't sleep tonight." "Let him rest." Damien's voice was gentle. "We're safe here." The greenhouse door was locked from within, sealing them in their private garden. Outside, the metal shutters still gleamed, a visible reminder of the protection surrounding them. But inside, there was only peace, the kind bought with blood and trust and love. Caleb stirred slightly, clutching his favorite dinosaur toy. Harper watched his chest rise and fall, marveling at how children could sleep through storms and battles, trusting the adults around them to keep the monsters at bay. The afternoon light softened, casting long shadows through the roses. Ruth adjusted the blanket over Caleb's legs, her movements careful not to wake him. The picnic remains lay forgotten, half-eaten sandwiches and scattered juice boxes, testament to the interrupted celebration. Damien's phone stayed silent, no more emergencies demanding attention. He had chosen to stay here, in this moment, with his family. The Empire could wait while he watched his son sleep among the flowers he'd tended in secret for so long. Harper traced one of the dinosaur stickers on his wrist, a tiny blue triceratops marching across his pulse point. Such a small thing, yet it marked the distance they'd traveled from that first night when he'd appeared in her doorway. "The roses need water," he said softly, but made no move to leave their huddle. "Later," Harper replied, settling deeper into his side. "Everything else can wait." The greenhouse held them in its warm embrace, a bubble of peace after the storm. Through the glass, they could see the city changing colors as afternoon crept toward evening, but time felt suspended in their sanctuary of white roses and sleeping children and hard-won safety. Morning light spilled across Harbor View, touching the harbor's choppy waters and glinting off high-rise windows. The city had changed in subtle ways over the past weeks, invisible shifts in power that rippled through every dark corner and backroom deal. In his office overlooking the waterfront, Damien signed the last territory agreement with methodical precision. The new clause stood out in bold text. Children are exempt from all business matters and revenge cycles. Each boss had added their signature, some willingly, others after careful persuasion. Those who refused no longer concerned themselves with Harbor View's politics. The official court envelope arrived by courier, Judge Emerson's final order, with the DNA results that confirmed what Damien had known since he first saw Caleb's eyes. The petition was dead, buried under enough legal weight to keep it there. Harper's bakery hummed with morning activity, the bell above the door chiming steadily. Through the front window, she could see Jace pretending to read a newspaper at a cafe table, while Tomash's dark SUV idled discreetly around the corner. The protection felt different now, not a cage, but a shield. "More sprinkles," Caleb insisted, helping her decorate a tray of cupcakes. His small hands scattered rainbow colors with careful concentration. "Perfect technique," Harper praised, watching him beam with pride. He'd grown more confident these past weeks, secure in the rhythm they'd built between bakery mornings and penthouse nights. Damien's retirement from street operations had raised eyebrows, but no one dared question it. His influence still echoed through the city's shadows, but now it flowed into legitimate businesses and a private foundation that helped families escape situations like Navarro's power plays. The afternoon sun warmed the greenhouse glass as Harper, Damien, and Caleb knelt in the soft soil. Caleb clutched a small watering can, carefully tending the row of white rose bushes they'd just planted. "Gentle," Damien guided, his hands steady on Caleb's shoulders. "Like this." Harper watched them work together, father and son focused on nurturing new growth. The sight still caught her breath sometimes, this tender side of a man whose name once made hardened criminals flinch. "Your turn," Damien said, reaching for her hand. The ring slid cool and perfect onto her finger, catching the greenhouse light. "You and Caleb are my home," he murmured, voice rough with possession and certainty. "My family!" They settled into the practical details of their new life, planning Caleb's first day of school with security measures that wouldn't frighten his classmates, working out custody schedules that let both parents share bedtime, stories. "Date night," Harper insisted, curled against Damien's side, "once a week ending before midnight. No work calls unless it's truly urgent." "Define urgent," he teased, playing with her fingers. "Higher stakes than burnt garlic bread." "That was once," Damien protested, but his eyes crinkled at the corners. Caleb sprawled between them on the picnic blanket, carefully adding another dinosaur sticker to Damien's wrist. The collection had grown, a parade of prehistoric creatures marching across his father's skin, each one placed with serious deliberation. "T-Rex goes here," Caleb decided, smoothing the sticker over Damien's pulse point. "Because it's the strongest." Harper caught Damien's soft look and felt warmth bloom in her chest. They'd built this gentle afternoon in a greenhouse full of roses, with their son safe and happy between them. The last piece had fallen into place that morning, Navarro's remaining lieutenants signing the child safety clause or surrendering their territory. Those who'd refused simply disappeared, leaving gaps that more amenable crews quickly filled. The greenhouse door stood propped open, letting in a warm breeze that carried the scent of roses. No more locked exits or panic buttons, just the safety they'd fought for, earned with blood and trust and love. "Another one," Caleb announced, selecting a Stegosaurus sticker. "Dad needs lots." The words still made Damien's breath catch. Dad. Freely given, not demanded. He lay still, letting Caleb decorate him while Harper's laughter filled the greenhouse. Outside, the city stretched peaceful beneath them. Inside, they had everything that mattered: family, safety, and a future without cages. The white roses nodded in the breeze, their petals catching the late afternoon light like scattered diamonds. Ruth appeared in the doorway with a tray of lemonade and cookies, smiling at the domestic scene. She'd stayed on as Caleb's nanny, though her role had shifted more toward beloved aunt who spoiled him with treats and stories. "Snack time," she announced, setting down the tray. "And then perhaps we should think about dinner." 5 more minutes, Caleb bargained, already reaching for a cookie, while adding another sticker to Damien's collection. Harper leaned back on her elbows, watching her family in the golden light. The ring caught the sun, sending tiny rainbows dancing across the greenhouse glass. Peace settled around them like a warm blanket, hard-won and precious. The city had learned its lesson. Some lines couldn't be crossed, some treasures were too precious to threaten. Damien had rewritten the rules, and Harper had helped him find a better way to enforce them. Together, they'd built something neither of them thought possible that first night. A family strong enough to survive both darkness and light.